All right, generator safety. Always use in an open, well-ventilated area outside.
Pay attention to the yellow.
Okay, so you can't have them installed on the inside if you really trust an exhaust system that takes the exhaust to the outside. Danger of carbon monoxide poisoning. Carbon monoxide poisoning will sneak up on you. You will notice it in someone else. You can't see your lips, but they'll start to turn bluish. It's hypoxia because the carbon monoxide chemically blocks oxygen from entering the bloodstream. It's the same as being in an airplane at too high of an altitude, you can't get oxygen. Be careful. Don't get around the carbon in enclosed areas. Locate your fire extinguisher near, but away, near the generator, but away from fuel. It's not yellow. It should also say away from. Near it, but not sitting next to it. Okay, don't have the gas can and the fire extinguisher sitting right next to the generator. Because if you have a fire, you want to be able to get to the fire extinguisher. Connect the generator frame to a ground rod installed at the generator location. It's not yellow though, so okay, you're supposed to drive an 8-foot long grounding rod into the ground. Best way to get an 8-foot grounding rod in, if somebody's going to come inspect it, is to drive it in as far as you can and cut it off the top.
And pound down the saw marks.
Yes, you want to cut that. Yeah, you don't want them to look like yeah. Okay, refueling. Always shut down the generator while refueling. Always have a second person present with a fire extinguisher. Why would that be?
You're on fire.
Because when I'm pouring fuel into a generator and it catches fire, it's probably going to get on me when I go, ah! Okay? Somebody else is going to put me out. Never store fuel near the generator, and especially near the exhaust. And most especially if you have one of those neat new red plastic safety fuel cans. Generator safety connecting the house to house wiring. Okay? If you're going to connect your generator to the house wiring, use a approved transfer switch, and it disconnects house wiring from the power company wiring, and open the main breakers and connect the generator on the house side of the breaker. Connecting the house wiring, it disconnects the house wiring from the power company, and we're going to continue. If it's not disconnected from the power company wiring, it can backfeed into the power system and expose power line workers to lethal voltages. When power is restored, it can damage the generator too.
The key is always isolation.
Hire an electrician to make sure it's right. Plus, his insurance covers it, not yours. Lightning. Okay. That's 110 volts. That's million or millions of volts. Reduce or prevent damage to your equipment. Prevent fire. Ground all your antennas. Here's the test. Use lightning arresters mounted to a grounded panel near where feed lines enter the building. You can do that. I don't know if they're effective. They might be. It's kind of like an insurance policy. Hopefully it works when you need it.
So they do work, but if you take a direct strike, nothing is going to stop it.
No,
Right.
they're going to burn right through it.
If you're worried about protecting your antenna from a lightning strike, don't. If lightning strikes your antenna,
You're done.
there is no antenna. Vaporize, okay? Use lightning arresters mounted to a grounded panel near where the feed lines enter the building. What you're most concerned about is a near strike, because the antenna is intended to pick up microvolts from his radio put down at 50 watts 20 miles away. Well, that 50 watts is dispersing in a 360-degree circle most likely, and so by the time it gets 10 miles away, there's no watts, there's microwatts. Antennas are not struck any more frequently than trees or tall structures, and I happen to have a 104-foot tall tree in the next door neighbor's yard. I'm hoping that one takes the hit, but I'm still going to get zapped on my antenna.
If your power is off, like you turn your whole station off
Right?
before the storm, I mean, obviously if it hits it, it's toast anyways, but it doesn't matter then, right, because it's off?
No, it does. So what we recommend is that you disconnect the coax
Just
cable
unplug.
and unplug the radio before the storm gets to you.
And we're talking significantly before, okay?
Yeah, we'll cover how to figure out if it's too close. There's apps to do it. My girlfriend's got one, and she's like, I'm on the net, and she's like, okay, last night was 7 miles before the storm. So here's what we're going to tell you. Disconnect all cables outside of the house if you can. Unplug the equipment power plugs inside the house. Also disconnect telephone lines and PC connections. How many people here unplug their computer every time there's a storm?
Nah.
Yeah, I can't put mine up either. And when installing a station or tower, install a grounded metal entry panel for all feed lines and control cables. This is probably way more than what you're ever going to have. Use good grounding practices. The test, connect each tower leg to an 8-foot ground rod bonded to the tower and each other. So if you got 4 legs on it, you've got 4 8-foot long grounding rods into the ground.
That is IEEE recommended, but almost nobody does it. Literally though, you do what you can do
Right.
within the confines of what you can afford and what your time allows.
Ensure the connections are short and direct using heavy metal strap. Strap, the big white flat strap, gives you the most surface area for a given amount of metal. Bond all ground rods together with heavy wire or conductor strap and to the AC wiring safety ground. Avoid sharp bends and grounding
There we
conductors. The station's lightning protection ground system should be located outside the building.
Also around here, we have minimal lightning strikes compared to much of the country. We used to live in Central Texas. That was a whole different ballgame. It was quite often that we would get lightning strikes close. I took a direct strike on the tower I had out behind the house.
Oh,
The tower was maybe 150 feet behind the house. I had underground cable going to the house. I had a ground at the tower with a transit trap lightning arrestor. I had a transit trap as it came into the house. It took out everything in the shack, including stuff that was just loose on the desk. So you just do what you can do.
don't stress over this, just know it. Know the answers to the questions they're gonna ask you. Keep it in mind when you're designing your systems. Like we said, if you take a direct strike, you better have insurance. Or be able to afford replacing your gear. Never use soldered connections for lightning protection. Why would that be? Let's see. What's the melting point solder? Not very hot. It will vaporize. A solder joint will likely be destroyed with the heat of a lightning strike. Solder flux will prevent a low conductivity connection. So that's another reason. The biggest one is it's going to vaporize. Doesn't matter how good you solder it. Okay, question. Which of the following is a safety hazard of a 12-volt battery? The 12-volt storage battery. Okay, so we use the phonetic alphabet, so the answers are not A, B, C, and D. The answers are Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, or Delta. Did you say Charlie?
Bravo.
Oh. What do we got? Speak up. I'm old. I can't hear that.
Bravo.
Bravo. Shorting of terminals can cause burns, fire, or an explosion. Yeah, you guys listen. All right, what hazard, and if I move on from a question and somebody's confused, say something and we'll go right back to it, right then and there. What hazard is caused by charging or discharging a battery too quickly?
Alpha.
Overheating or outgassing? Okay. Oh, by the way, there are some answers that are all of the above. Okay. Unlike most government questions, some of the ones that say all of the above are not all of the above, and some of them are. Okay, I heard a what? An alpha, and that is the correct answer. Overheating or outgassing. What health hazard is presented by electrical current flowing through the body? I don't see death up there, so.
Delta.
Oh, is it? Are we sure? It is alpha, right? And it is Bravo, right? So it can't be any one, it must be all of the above, and that's a trick. Okay, if you can eliminate one, you've eliminated that last one. And if you can validate two, you've made it is the last one. So if you got a question, try and work it that way, all of the above. What is the purpose of a fuse in an electrical circuit?
Bravo.
To remove power in case of overload. To limit current to prevent shocks, is that possible?
Yeah.
To prevent shocks? No. It is Bravo. So they're gonna try and make you think, ooh, it could be that. They're gonna try.
But the disqualifier from D happens to be A.
Oh, to prevent power supply ripple from damaging a component. No. They're to protect the wiring from starting a fire and hurting you. Why should a 5 amp fuse never be replaced with a 20 amp fuse? If anybody gets this wrong, there's the door. Let's hear an answer.
Charlie.
Charlie. In the United States, what circuit does black wire insulation indicate in a 3-wire 120 volt cable? Okay, the electrician isn't allowed to answer electrical questions because we want to make sure that they learn. You can answer the harder ones, okay?
Doesn't specify if it's AC or DC.
Black wire in a 3-wire 120 volt cable. That's how they wrote the question. I didn't write the question. So you have to make an assumption.
Right, so you know it's AC.
Well, you don't know because you can have 120 volts DC, but yeah, you have to assume that this because they didn't specify it. So assume it's 120 volt AC. And so you're going to have what color for the what is the black wire and the 120 AC? I heard the answer. Let's see. Here's the difference. Bravo. Okay. What is a good way to guard against electrical shock at your station?
10 seconds.
9. 8. I got heard of Delta. Do we agree? Now there you go. Do the circle. Do we agree? Delta? You do? It is Delta. Good job. All right. Why should you avoid attaching an antenna to a utility pole?
Think of India.
Did you get splinters in your legs?
You're supposed to wear those other things with the stripes. Okay, I heard an answer, but it wasn't from you, sir. The only one on the second row that doesn't know they haven't been here before. The answer. It's C, intended to contact high voltage power lines, yes. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm trying to get everybody to participate,
So the
okay?
metal poles are too hard to climb?
You get rusted.
This metal poles aren't hard to climb. Haven't you seen those magnetic boots they have now? Where should lightning arrestor be installed in coaxial feed line? That's the one coming from the antenna to your radio.
Delta.
I heard a Delta.
Delta.
Everybody agrees. All right. If somebody disagrees, please raise your hands up so we can find out where the disconnect was, what you didn't catch, what we said wrong maybe, so that we can make sure that you've got it down pat. Okay? There's no right or wrong answers. Well, there are. We can take the test. In here, the idea is to get you to the right answer and remembering it. What hazard exists in a power supply immediately after turning it off? So we didn't specifically address this, I don't think. It's in the reading material. But
Delta.
I heard a Delta.
Delta.
I got another Delta.
Does everybody understand what that's saying?
So when you turn it off.
There's filter capacitors in every power supply that we use. They are there designed to create a reduced ripple or a pure DC, but they're always going to be there. And they always will hold a charge.
So yeah, it may not look like this, but there's capacitors in there. And when you charge this, it'll hold it.
Every modern power supply that we have out there has resistors attached to the end designed to discharge those capacitors.
But if you turn it off, stick your finger in there, it may not have discharged it yet.
Right. The leader resistors are important. That's why they're there.
So, do we have an answer on this?
Delta.
Delta, charge, storage, and filter capacitors. Where should a fuse and a circuit breaker be installed in a 120 volt AC power circuit? See, now this one tells you AC. So it is alpha. Which of the following is true when installing grounding conductors used for lightning detection?
Charlie.
Sharp bends must be avoided. Common grounds must be avoided. Oh, lot of walls together. Wires must be carefully routed with precise right angle bends. We talked about that. No. And use non-insulated wire only. No, it can be insulated. So it is what you guys should charge. All right. What should be done to all external ground rods or earth connections? Now, the answer
Avoid
is
them like
not
that.
cut them off so it looks like you drove 8 feet. Waterproof.
Charlie.
Bond them together with heavy wire or conductive strap is correct. Which of the following establishes grounding requirements for an amateur radio? A tower or antenna? Amateur radio tower. Bravo. Local electrical codes. Okay, I got Bravo, which is local, and somebody said NEC.
It's Rob.
It's Bravo, but that's not NEC.
Yes, it is not NEC. NEC is with the wire in your shack.
Yeah, this is for
Towers are local
tower
electric.
antennas, not NEC. NEC is the shack itself. The tower and antenna are local. Which wire or wires in a 4-conductor 240 volt AC, that's what VAC stands for, circuit should be attached to fuses or circuit breakers, anybody but the electrician? Because he knows the answer, I know he knows the answer. Okay, don't try and mess them up now on purpose. Okay, do we have an answer? Only the hot wires. The bonding wire is a neutral.
I have a question.
Oh, you're
Now-
gonna get technical on me.
Now, this is on the CB. This question is related. They put a fuse on the negative.
Yeah, we do too. We'll get there. That's AC. CB is dealing with the DC.
Okay.
And don't ask me why. Oh, Steve, introduce
He
yourself.
snuck in.
Hi, I'm Steve. I'm part of the illustrious crew here, or infamous crew.
Yeah, well, we have an electrician in this class, so he's keeping square on the electrical stuff.
Who's the electrician? Okay,
Okay, only the hot wires. What frequencies do you monitor?
147, 100.
That's Don Speaks repeater.
And Baldy, 14684.
Okay. And if you guys want to know this stuff later, just ask.
And 151, 175, which is the Sheriff's Department dispatch.
Okay, so y'all don't put that in radios unless you make sure you have inhibited or prohibited.
You don't want to be transmitted. Somebody had a Valfed radio and a charger, and they had the box turned on, and the radio was on, and it was transmitting on the dispatch frequency for the sheriff's department. They were quite angry about that. In fact, we spent half a Saturday out on direction finders trying to locate where they were. And I think they got the message and quit doing it. But, there's lots of ways to screw up, but don't screw up with that.
So Vox is voice activated.
Voice operated
operated transmission. So the sound keys up the transmitter. So you got a radio or a YL or kids or a barking dog, and you're listening to the sheriff's department every time the dog barks.
And that was what they were hearing.
The dog bark.
The dog barking. Fortunately, it was a Valfed radio, so it wasn't very powerful. It wasn't, and it was on the output frequency of the dispatch, so they weren't like getting into the repeater, but it was still bouncing around the area, and it was fairly close to Station 7 in White City.
So you don't want to be the guy driving down the road, screaming at your kids or your wife, or husband or boyfriend or
Or your
girlfriend,
dog.
while you're sitting on the microphone button. According to National Electrical Code, what is the minimum wire size that may be used safely for wiring with a 20 amp circuit breaker?
Charlie.
Well, what is the size of fuse or circuit breaker would be appropriate to use with a circuit?
14. Charlie.
Oh, there's a number in there. I was like, what's wrong with that? Well, the circuit that uses AWG 14, and somebody said, Charlie, is that what I heard?
No.
That's what I hear? Delta for 14. Oh, 14 smaller than 12. So are we here? Are we going all agreed on Delta now? Delta. Where should the station's lightning protection ground system be located? Okay? Now, if we don't know the answer, we'll take a test. The first thing we want to do is say, what can't it be? Can I eliminate any of these? Okay? As close to station equipment as possible? Not really. Outside the building? Yeah, okay. Next to the closest power pole? No. because we're not putting anything by power poles, parallel to the water supply line. No.
That's a good.
So we got it down to 50%, and it is correct, it is Bravo, okay? There will be some questions you are going to use process elimination.
Yep.
No, that's a ground.
There are some questions you're simply gonna have to memorize because regulations, you can't do any now, you just have to memorize the regulation. And there's not a whole lot of those, so don't stress out. Which of the following conditions will cause a ground fault circuit interrupter, GFCI, to disconnect AC power? Well, on the bright side, I know they're reading all the answers,
Yes.
and that's what you need to do.
Yeah, well, when it comes to the FCC's regulations and testing and that kind of stuff, don't take anything for granted on these questions.
Okay, so I haven't heard a letter come out yet. So, can it be A, B, or C? Are there any we can throw out?
Delta.
Okay, if we could throw out Delta, we must be able to
throw
throw out A, B, or C. One of those up there, at least one of those. Can we figure out which one we can throw out? We can throw out C, which throws out D, so now we're down to Alpha and Bravo. So is it current flowing from one or more of the hot wires to neutral, or is it current flowing from one or more of the hot wires directly to ground?
GFCI was ground.
Kind of same thing, isn't it? So, they're not electricians. He is. The correct answer they want is that. Hot wires to ground, okay?
But it says it in the name, GFCI.
Yeah,
Ground.
you're talking about a ground fault.
Yeah. Okay, now, the ground and the neutral are tied together, so they're both technically correct answers, but the one they want to hear is ground. Okay, it's going to the ground. Why must the metal enclosure of every hydrogen station equipment be grounded? I heard the answer. Anybody agree?
Okay, there's a point with this that we should make quickly, is RF is different than.
Yes. Yeah.
Than.
RF plays really weird games.
Yes.
It is.
So you can get RF in your chassis from your radio under certain circumstances. If you go to touch it, it'll bite the hell out of you, even though there's no problem. It's RF coming back down the coax.
Right. Well, why should soldered joints not be used in lightning protection ground connections?
All of it, deep.
So here's the other thing, when they put that D delta, two of A, B, and C are for sure right in your mind.
Yes.
The third one must be too. It is delta. Oh. Wait a minute.
Hypothetically.
Oh, solder flux will prevent a low conductivity connection.
No.
Yeah, it will create a low conductivity connection. See, they're tricky. Okay, which of the following is a danger from lead tin solder? And by the way, I'm an extra. That was, I believe, a technician, might have been a general question. And I got it wrong, because they tricked me. Alpha? Food can be contaminated. Which of the following is required for lightning protection ground rods? Which one made you chuckle?
Bravo's fun.
Yeah, Alpha would be a good time. Delta.
Delta? Everybody agree? Okay, it is Delta. In the old days, water and gas lines were actually metal. They aren't anymore. It doesn't matter how old the house is, if they came along and replaced the line, it's not going to be metal. You used to be able to just stick a clamp on a water pipe outside the house, stick it on a cold water pipe, and you got awesome ground.
Did that more than once back in the old days.
Oh, yeah. Well, miles and miles and miles of metal pipe. Not anymore. Yeah, that gas line is plastic. But what is the purpose of the power supply interlock?
Charlie.
I heard it, Charlie, from the front row. Okay, so I had an answer. What was it?
Charlie.
Charlie is correct. Where should lightning arresters be located? Which one made you chuckle? Oh.
Alpha.
Alpha, where the feed lines enter the building. Why don't we keep it further away from the house at the closest power pole ground away? We don't want to do that, do we? Alpha is correct. Which of the following is covered by the National Electrical Code? Now, this is according to, for our electrician, this is according to the ARRL and the question pool, not what reality is.
Charlie and Terry.
Yep.
Charlie.
Are we in agreement, Mr. Professional?
Yeah, Charlie.
Okay, maybe wrong. But we don't care, this is what the test is.
I didn't say that.
No, I'm just saying, it doesn't matter what's reality, these are the actual questions and answers that they expect you to answer on the test. So when we get to the battery stuff, and we're talking about batteries more than just safety, there's wrong stuff in there. Okay, which of the following is true of an emergency generator installation? Okay, so everybody's laughing at Charlie, right? So it's not Charlie, which means it's not Delta, Alpha or Bravo.
Alpha.
Oh, well, anyway. Yeah, well, I don't know why you would ever.